Okay, last video we talked about chunking. We're talking generally about working memory here, and we talked about the concept of chunking, breaking something down into units, therefore making the byte size or the bit size larger, but having less bits of information to remember. 20 here versus 5 here if we break it down. The implication of this for instruction is that learning tasks should be organized so that they can be easily chunked by the learner. So trying to organize things in a way that the learner can break it down into chunks. Now in terms of the other limitation of working memory, we talked about how much information, but we could also talk about the time limits. How long can information be held? Famous experiment, Brown and Peterson, they discovered it's about 15 to 30 seconds. And what they did was they had the subjects recall a certain number of digits. In other words, they read them a series of numbers, and then they said, okay, we want you to remember that. Now we want you to count backwards from 100 to 0 by threes. And they did that, and they tried to see how long they could do that before the information was lost. So after, say, 15 seconds, they would ask. After 20 seconds, they would stop them and ask. And they found that it varied from 15 to 30 seconds. That's a fairly large variation for that sort of thing. But because the subjects had to count backwards by 3, they weren't able to perform rehearsal or maintenance rehearsal. They weren't able to hold this in working memory, and therefore it naturally decayed, and that limit of natural decay is about 15 to 30 seconds. If you want to prevent the loss of information, if you want to make sure that it's properly transferred into long-term memory where you can get it when you need it, you've got two options. The first is rehearsal. This basically just means repeating it over and over again. And the second is encoding. This is really where we want to focus. Rehearsal is a very simplistic technique. It has its place, but it's also very limited if you're dealing with complex or abstract information. Encoding is a much more efficient strategy, and we're going to look at both of those in the next video.